to watch, made for us by Kevin Doyle, who a lot of you may know is a pretty well-known actor in these parts, having appeared in Happy Valley, where I think he played a fairly troubled soul, and also in Downton Abbey. So if we could start off with Kevin's video, that will at least set the scene, I think. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kevin Doyle. You may or may not recognise me from Downton Abbey or Happy Valley. I also think I did an episode of The Bill in 1995. Anyway, I'm also local and part of the Calder Valley community. Now, Calder Valley has a great history. There have been some important philanthropists, and of course we have magnificent buildings, including the Fielden Hall. We know how important our historic buildings are to us, how much we love the stories of them, and we want to keep them alive, remembering this history as we prepare for the future, making sure we create a legacy for future generations by investing in our community. And now in 2020 we have that opportunity, a very modern, new kind of philanthropy for the town, a community-led investment in affordable homes and improving our facilities in the valley. A chance for you to invest in our community. So, the Calder Valley Community Land Trust are asking people to invest in Todmorden through the Fielden Acre project. Their community shares offer is looking to raise £220,000 to buy the land around Fielden Hall and the houses that bookend it, as well as making improvements to the hall itself. Helping Calder Valley CLT buy the land will ensure affordable community-owned housing, but it's more than that. Community ownership of the whole plot of land secures forever a beautiful and historic space for the community, right next to Centerville Park. The Community Shares offer is now open to invest. Just head to the website address. You can invest from £250 to £20,000. So if you have some money and you want to invest it, please think about joining the Fielden Acre project. You'll be putting your money into an investment and helping the town, just like the Fieldens did all those years ago.
Thank you. I hope you all feel suitably energised by that. I thought it made Todmorden look very pretty, even in the snow. I've now got to introduce one of our own trustees, Maggie Smallwood. He's going to introduce the share offer and give us some more of the practical information. Thank you, Maggie.
Hello. Are you going to put the slides up, Peg? So, hello everybody. I feel, I think it's quite a hard act to follow that really, but then he is a professional actor, Kevin, so I'll do my best. So a very, very big welcome to the launch of the Fielden Acre Community Share issue. It's absolutely fantastic to see so many people here. My name is Maggie, I'm one of the trustees, and I'm going to just give you a little bit of introduction to the Calder Valley Community Land Trust, and then try and explain why we think it's worth investing in that community share offer. Next slide, please. So the Calder Valley Community Land Trust is part of a fast-growing community-led housing movement. We ourselves are based in the Calder Valley, and I'm not sure if there's anybody here from away from here who aren't familiar with this very beautiful part of the world. It's the home of Happy Valley, Ted Hughes, and was considered the coolest place to live, according to The Guardian a few years ago. So it's a good place. The Calder Valley Community Land Trust was established in 2014 as a community benefit society with charitable status. And I think we should give a big thank you to the Todmorden and Hebden Bridge Town Councils who supported the initiative right from the very beginning. And very important, we're owned and controlled by the community. And so any of you who aren't members already, please do join today. It gives you a say over what we do. Next slide, please. So if we just a little bit of background about our priorities. Our first one is affordable housing in our area. And if you look at the left-hand side of this slide, it's a nice example of the sorts of things we're trying to do. It's the development of 6 independent living bungalows, which are let at affordable rents for older people. And we finished this in February of this year in partnership with a local almshouse charity, John Eastwood Homes, on land that was transferred to us by Calder Council. The second thing that we do is hold land and buildings on behalf of the community. And so, for instance, we're working with the Hebden Bridge signal box preservation group to develop a business plan to preserve the signal box in Hebden Bridge. And finally, we're very active in developing partnerships that strengthen our community. And I think you see both of those projects that I gave as examples are done in partnership with other local organisations which share our values. And one of the reasons I'm so excited about the Fielden Acre project is it actually hits all of those buttons of affordable housing, community buildings, and partnership working. Next slide, please. So a little bit of background on the Fielden Acre project. If you look at the top photo here, which is kind of half obscured, I'm afraid, under the green line, but you can see there's a red circle in the middle of that set of buildings, and that's Fielden Hall. And the very generous owners of that gifted us that in 2015. It's managed by the Fielden Centre Association as a thriving community centre. I thought the Fielden Centre Fielden Centre Association might sound a bit kind of as though they were bankers in London or something. But actually, I think, as you can see from that little photo on the left, they're actually very much part of the community. Now, about a year ago, the 2 houses that bookend that hall that we've already got came up for sale, together with the land that's around them. And this actually gives us the opportunity to bring the whole complex of buildings into community ownership. But that takes money. And that's why we're all here today. Next slide, please. So here's the nitty-gritty and specifics of what we're proposing to purchase. So we've got these 2 buildings which are circled in red at either end of the hall. Those contain 2 houses, a 3-bedroom and a 2-bedroom house, a storeroom and a meeting room. They also have quite large gardens. And if you actually put that together with the land and the building that we already own, that makes up about an acre. And that's why we've called the project the Fielden Acre. And we want to bring the whole thing into community ownership. So that's the nitty-gritty. Next slide, please. But actually, what we're asking you to invest in is actually much, much more than that. As Kevin said, it's actually investing in the future of your community. It's investing in affordable homes, and it's investing in heritage. Next slide, please. So one of the main reasons that we want to buy the whole of that Fielden Acre is to protect the future of Fielden Hall as a community asset. Lots of community activities go on in that beautiful building. Everything from dog training to lectures to craft fairs to weddings, Tai Chi, and then they've been helping out with food distribution during the COVID crisis. As Kevin said, the building lies right next to Centrevale Park, and there may be an opportunity to connect the hall a bit better with this very important Todmorden asset. So when you invest in the Fielden Acre project, you're investing in the future to ensure this beautiful historic building remains as a community asset for the people of Todmorden for the long term. And it continues to host lots of people doing things that they enjoy together. Next slide, please. So the second thing is heritage. When you're investing in the Fielden Acre project, you're investing in heritage. The Fielden family, as those of you in Todmorden I'm sure already know, is a very important part of Todd's heritage. And these particular buildings were built in 1870 by the pioneering educator and philanthropist Sarah Fielden for use as a school. in 1897, her son transferred that school to the Borough Council for use as an art and technical college, and that ran for 42 years up until the beginning of the war. And it allowed ordinary local people to participate in and develop their artistic talents and skills. And now it's managed as a community venue. So when you invest in the Fielden Acre community share offer, you're building actually on a very long heritage of philanthropy. And as Kevin said, community shares are very 21st century sort of philanthropy. You're investing to grow sort of new shoots from those very old roots. Next slide, please. And then finally, when you invest in Fielden Acre, you're actually also investing in affordable homes. We commit to letting those homes that we're buying at affordable rents for the long term. Next slide, please. So, financial things. We're asking people to invest serious money in this venture, and we've been very serious about the financial aspects of this project. The share offer is supported by a clear and robust business plan, and that's reflected in the fact that it's achieved the standard mark from the government's community shares unit, showing it meets national standards of good practice. You can invest anywhere between £250 and £20,000. So whatever you feel is appropriate to what you can afford. However, just bear in mind that if we can raise £150,000 from the local community, the Community Shares Booster Programme will add another £50,000 of investment. So each pound you invest actually brings in an extra 30 odd p for us. So I hope that would encourage people to invest. Whatever you invest, the shares that you invest in are withdrawable, though of course we're hoping that people will invest for the long term. And we're offering up to a 2% interest rate on whatever you invest. And actually in the current financial climate where you're getting 0.1% or something from savings account, that's actually not that bad. And I should say that we do always have this caveat about the capital at risk warning. However, we have been very careful in our risk management. We've thought through the business plan very carefully. Paying that interest is an absolute priority for us. I think it's possibly worth mentioning that we've actually already attracted over nearly £100,000 in community share investment in the informal way, and that will start paying out, I think, next year. So it's really only under really extreme circumstances that we would that we wouldn't pay that interest. Next slide, please. That was a real whistle-stop tour of the Fielden Acre community share offer. If you want to find out more, you can go to our website, either at this link, but that's sometimes quite hard to do, to go to a link, but if you just type Fielden Acre into web search, it should take you there. If you feel like you already know as much as you need, you can go to the our investment platform, EFEX, where you'll find the share offer document and the business plan and other supporting documentation. And that's where you can actually make the investments. And I'd like to just finish off by saying, acknowledging the people who've agreed to offer us the Booster Fund, which comes from the Architectural Heritage Fund, the Community Shares Booster Programme, and Cooperatives UK. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Maggie. There will be chances to have some questions at the end of this process. I think that's probably the best way to deal with it. So you've heard from ourselves, Calder Valley Community Land Trust. Just to put a national perspective on Community Land Trust, I'm going to ask Catherine Harrington, who's the Chief Executive of the National Community Land Trust Network, to say a few words to us this morning. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, thanks, Simon. I'm just going to change the view. I'm so pleased to be joining you all this morning. I wish I could be there in person for this really important event for Calder Valley. I know Maggie just gave really good reasons for why to invest, but if you're still umming and ahhing about whether to invest, I'm going to give you three more really good reasons from a national perspective. The first one is that you'll be joining a movement that's bringing real hope to housing. There's so much to be fed up about, isn't there, when it comes to housing, especially at the moment. I mean, I don't know if you saw in the news 2 days ago, there was a report that homelessness in rural areas has risen by 115% in the last 2 years. So it's basically more than doubled. Not to mention affordability problems, overcrowding that many people face, empty properties, and the list goes on. And a lot of those problems really feel out of our control. But there's a whole movement of people like Simon, Maggie, Andrew, and thousands of others who are willing to put often, hundreds of volunteer hours into building homes that we need. And that's not only really inspiring. I mean, I constantly feel in awe of what people are prepared to do, but it brings us real hope. And I think at a time when a lot, with the pandemic, things feel pretty worrying, don't they? And really definitely out of our control. I think we need reasons to be hopeful, and this project really does that. The second reason is that it actually delivers really good value for money. So in addition to the 2% return you'd be getting, and that really good feel good factor as well, we recently commissioned research by Capital Economics, renowned economists, using a methodology that government actually use to assess whether they should put money into, say, which interventions, say, on health or education, and what kind of return would that give in terms of the public investment and the benefit to society. And it found that for every £1 invested in community-led housing, there's a £2.70 return in terms of the positive impact on society. So almost 3 times every £1 you invest. You can also be really confident that because community shares is a tried and tested approach across the wider wider kind of community development sector, but also in community-led housing. So a number of CLTs have already done this. Brighton and Hove CLT actually have a share offer open at the moment as well. London CLT, for example, raised £500,000 through community shares. So it'd be great if you could beat them. It's always good to get one up on London, right? And the last really good reason is that you'll be joining a movement that's really going places and it's well on its way to becoming mainstream. 10 years ago, CLTs were hardly even known about, and there were only a handful of groups. Now there are over 350 across the country. And when you add the groups that are doing co-housing, cooperative housing, there are now 900 groups that have either built homes or are currently building homes in all parts of the country. And in just 2 years, the number of homes in the pipeline that communities are developing has grown from 5,000 to 23,000, of which 10,000 of those homes will be delivered in the next 5 years. So amazing growth. And 7,000, sorry, there's a lot of numbers here, but hopefully you're seeing that they're impressive numbers. 7,000 of those 10,000 homes are by CLTs. So we make up a big chunk of it. The movement's also gaining real political traction across the political spectrum. So in 2016, we secured 300 million investment in the movement. Sadly, that came to an end in March this year, but we're currently campaigning to get that renewed. And we've already had the support of nearly 80 MPs backing that campaign. We also secured a commitment in the Conservative Party manifesto to support community-led housing, which they now need to deliver on. We have the Minister of Housing saying a few weeks ago at an event of ours, saying that community-led housing needs to be a much bigger part of the government's Build Back Better ambition. I don't know if you heard about, Boris has been saying we need to build, and build back better. And the Minister of Housing is saying CLTs need to be a much bigger part of that. And we have a review that was commissioned, well, actually at the request of the Prime Minister, recommending that CLTs and community-led housing is the future of social housing. It's not niche or kind of fringe, but it's the future of social housing. So this movement is really going places and it's well on its way to being mainstream. And we don't want just 10,000 homes, but we want there to be 20,000, 30,000. You could say, that's crazily ambitious, but it's already happening. And when you see what people at Calder Valley are doing, what Simon, Andrew and others are doing, we really know that we can do it. So by investing today, you're going to be joining something that's truly hopeful, that actually delivers value for money and is really going places. And I urge you not to miss out on that opportunity. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Catherine. I think it's good to know that we're not working alone, and there's a lot of support for us and other community land trusts throughout the country as well. So I'd echo your thoughts about. I think it's a really good way to deliver affordable and good quality housing. We've heard from a national level now, and then on a more local level, I'm going to invite Ruth Coleman-Taylor, the Mayor of Todmorden, just to say a few words to us this morning, I think. Good morning, Ruth. Oh, I think you're still on mute at the minute.
Can you hear me now?
Perfectly, thank you.
Thank you. Right, well, I would like to say on behalf of the Town Council that I'm delighted to help launch this Fielden Acre community share issue. It's not the first time the Town Council has been involved in your activities. You may recall that my predecessor as Mayor, Councillor Ken White, helped launch the bungalow development in Walsden. I was amongst the councillors who came to that opening, and I was well impressed by the quality of the development. And I'm sure that the people of Todmorden are going to see more of that and your continuing work. Todmorden's not a wealthy area, which means that we are in constant need for social housing at affordable rents, and also that especially in the present difficult economic times, our community assets are at risk. Our history and our culture is at risk. And I think what is good about this development is that it meets many of those needs. Not only will there be an addition to the existing stock of social housing, a very welcome addition, but also the fact that the community asset of the Fielden Hall and its surroundings will be in this ownership, means that it is preserved for the future. It is part of Todmorden's heritage and will continue to be. I think Todmorden has been an area which has shown great community spirit, great cooperation, particularly in the increasingly dreadful floods over the last few winters, and of course throughout the pandemic. And the aims of this launch fall very firmly within that perspective, that it is local people helping local people to get good solutions. So I can only welcome with all my heart that we will have this asset owned by one community-based one community-based charity, the Land Trust, and I'm very glad it's an ethically based charity, and it will be managed by another, the Fielden Centre Association. It shows what the community can do when we all pull together. So I wish you every success.
Thank you, Ruth. We've always gratefully received the support that we've had from both Todmorden, Hebden Royd and Calderdale councils, I think. Without that, certainly we couldn't be where we are today. That sort of brings to an end the formal presentations part of the meeting. If anybody does have any questions, now's the time to, if you can, use the raise the hand feature, and I'll try and get everybody's questions answered if you've got anything that you would like to say. Maybe it's been such a comprehensive, lots of statements that nobody's really got anything more. Oh, here we go. There's some questions coming in now, I think. Hannah, I don't know if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question. That might be a good place to start.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, my microphone's not very good, which is why I typed the question.
All right.
So I just wanted to know if you have to buy all the shares that you want to buy in one go, or can you buy them over the period that it's open to buy based on how much you can afford at any one time?
Maggie, can you respond to that, do you think?
Yeah, I think yes, I think you can buy them as you know once a month or however you want to do that investment. You don't have to do them all at once.
Thank you.
We've got Lawrence who also wants to say something. Lawrence?
Yeah, I'd just like to raise a point for clarification on strategy. I mean, this is a great project, and the building we all know is a wonderful and valuable building, but this is actually only going to achieve, as far as I can gather from the presentation so far, 2 houses. And so I'm just wondering whether or not, in terms of impact on housing, this is actually the best use of the funds involved. And then secondly, I'm wondering whether or not there is any intention of actually developing physical housing on the land that will be bought together with the buildings. I don't quite understand that side of it.
Do you want me on that one again?
Go on, Maggie, yeah.
Okay, so our immediate aim is to bring the whole thing under community ownership, and that will include the 2 homes that are there, and the tenants will stay there, and we commit to those being affordable rents for the long term. We're talking to the FCA about how we might be able to enhance facilities with them. So at the moment, their meeting room isn't accessible. So you have to go up some really quite steep stairs to get into it. So we've been talking about whether there are ways we could create an accessible meeting room inside the inside the Fielden Acre somewhere, and that would actually release another small dwelling if that was appropriate. So that's one of the things. But I think our immediate aim is just to get this. Once we've got ownership, then we can start to work with the community on ways in which we could enhance it as a community asset.
Thank you, Maggie. Go on, Lawrence.
Well, that's a good guideline, but yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Quick question from Kathy, Maggie. Could you just remind us of the timeline for the share offer?
I think I forgot to say, so it actually opens today. You could go to the ETHEX platform today and invest £20,000, and it goes on until the 22nd of January. So you have it is a time limited share offer, which will end on the 22nd of January. If we've raised enough money, we may extend it a little bit if we haven't quite got there by the 22nd.
Thank you. I've got a few more hands that have been raised. So we've got Wendy Anderson. Wendy? If you'd like to unmute yourself, there you are.
Yeah. Oh, hiya. Thanks for doing this, everybody that's involved.
Thank you for being here.
Okay. I'm really glad to hear that this is all becoming like more mainstream and the future, and for kind of rented social housing, which I'm really interested in. When I heard that, you know, that the way this is going to work is that it's going to hold this place for community use, like forever, something came to mind, and that was that, do you remember Spring Hall in Halifax, when that was like a community facility gifted by a philanthropist, I think, and that got transferred by the council for use, for other use, and lots of little community groups were like, they had their facility then taken away for meeting and doing small activities. And what are the safeguards within this for keeping things for the community long term, please?
And I think obviously the Community Land Trust is based in the community and run by members of the community, and its members are part of the community. So that's one thing, and it's our remit to do that. And secondly, we always have the lease to the Fielden Centre Association with the people that run the facility now, and that we see no reason that would change. And so hopefully by having a community-based property owner and a community-based tenant, as long as the community want to continue to use the building, that's going to be what happens. It's going to be the way forward. And we want to take both the community and the current tenants along with us, and whatever we do will be with their agreement and approval.
Right. so that nobody could subvert the aims of the trust. Do you know, that's what I mean?
No, I mean, I think that, well, the trust, obviously, if the trustees suddenly became rogue, the members of the trust would be in a position to get rid of us. We're a fairly robust board of trustees, and I think the chances of us all suddenly turning tail and abandoning our principles and doing something completely different to what we're doing now would be quite hard to see. So it may be that if I as chair became a bit too power crazed, I would be pushed off to one side and somebody else could take control, frankly.
Yeah, sorry, it was no sort of slight on people's integrities.
No, but I mean, essentially, we're set up in such a way to try and prevent that. And I suppose you might say a council might be in a similar position, but our electorate's our members, and we're only here because the members keep voting for us. So if they got to a point where they didn't like us anymore, then we'd be soon out on our ear, I think.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I've also got a hand raised, I think, from Dave. Dave, if you'd like to unmute yourself, thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good event. Well done, everybody. Thank you. I'm here not as a Calder Valley resident. I live in Keighley, actually, but interested in the concept, and I've worked in social housing for 52 years. So understand what's about and support the principles. And here as a potential investor, but hearing about the plans and the thinking, I also chair Together Housing Association, which is a significant player in the valley. Some may think one that does a lot of good stuff, some may think otherwise, but I think hearing talk of partnership, I think there is potential. This is not a pitch in any shape or form to do anything contrary to the aims of the CLT. It's about a partnership for future activities, either on that site or other ones. An organisation with significant development capability that could work together in partnership and achieve something that would increase the supply of social housing, which is what I'm interested in.
That's brilliant. I think we share a lot of the same things, Dave. Yeah.
So I welcome further conversations about that at some point.
I'm sure we can arrange to speak to you outside the meeting at some point and have a conversation. That'd be brilliant. Yeah. Thank you. One I think maybe final hand. I don't know. Jenny Slaughter. Jenny, have you got a question that you'd like to raise?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Hello. Thank you. I just wondered, if someone invested in this project, is it sort of ring fenced to this project, or are we investing generally in the CLT? In terms of risk, if one project fails, does the other, would another project pick it up? Not that I'm expecting you to fail, of course, but I just wondered, are we specifically investing in this or generally?
Maggie, that might be a question that you can give us a bit of detail.
Okay, so you are investing in the Community Land Trust as a whole. That's how it works, but we're raising money specifically for this project. So if you look on the various websites we've pointed you towards, there's a business plan specifically for the Fielden Acre, how we're going to fund the money which is being invested now. But there's also the business plan for the whole Community Land Trust. And both of those have, risk registers and contingencies and sinking funds and, everything else. And in fact, that standard mark, I think, it certainly covers the business plan for the share issue, but I think it also says that the organisation as a whole has a business plan which is clear and meets national standards. Okay.
Which was your Maggie? A question from Nigel. If we reach target, does the share offer close early?
We've got a minimum and a maximum raise. So our minimum raise from the community is 150,000. However, if we can get an extra 50, then it makes the whole business plan work much better because we don't have to borrow as much money. So I think I haven't got it in front of me. I think that the total maximum raise from community shares is 270,000. But we can do it with 200. I think that's right, but I'd have to look at the documents.
That's fine. Bob's asked a question: have we any plans for additional housing? I'm not quite sure, Bob, if you mean at the Fielden Hall or elsewhere. Maggie?
Sorry, I was just writing a reply to that, but
all right.
Sorry, I'm talking too much. Yeah, so the only things that the only housing that we've specifically discussed is the one that we've talked to with the Fielden Centre Association around making a better meeting room and using the existing meeting rooms as converting that into a small affordable dwelling. So I mean, I'm not saying we'd never think about it, but we wouldn't. But we don't have any plans for that at the moment.
Thank you. We're obviously always in our larger remit. We're obviously looking at new housing possibilities all the time. Somewhat limited by trustees' ability to act on multiple sites all at once, but certainly when we're talking about partnership arrangements with other housing providers, that is one thing that might, in the medium term, give us a bit more capacity to grow quickly and to deliver more affordable housing, hopefully fairly promptly. I don't know if there's any more questions. I think all the hands that were raised have now been raised, and we've dealt with those. I think we may have a question from Jane.
Yes, I was wondering, as the share offer is going on ETHEX, I was wondering if investors had to be from the community, and thinking about Wendy's question also, if investors then become members of the CLT, I'm actually worried by Catherine saying that Boris Johnson thinks this is a good way forward for social housing. So that'll do.
Yeah, so effectively, do investors have to be from our local community, Maggie?
No, they don't. And it's worth pointing out that if you invest £20,000, or if you just join the trust as a member for £1, you only get one vote. So there's no way that anybody can get undue influence. And because I think almost all of our current members, and we've got something over 170, are from the local community, it makes it very difficult for our local community to lose control of the organisation. And also just on the kind of guarantees thing, I mean, we do have articles of association which state very clearly what our aims and objectives are. And if we aren't doing that, then we're breaking the law. So there are quite a lot of safeguards in place to make sure that we keep on track.
Thank you. So I think now we have answered all the questions. I hope that today's been enlightening for you, and that you feel encouraged to think about investing, and if not you, then speak to members of your family or the wider public, people that you know. I think it's going to be important that we open up this to as many people as possible, and particularly in these times when you can't actually physically get round to meet people. We're sort of relying on people, social media, and being quite active to get the word on the street. I know we've been in the Todmorden news, which clearly, now that's happened, everybody in Todmorden is forced to know exactly what we're doing. But the more you'd like to share information, the better from our viewpoint. I should say, just before we wound up the meeting, that we've already been quite active, and we so far have received pledges of purchase of shares up to the region of £40,000. So that's a really good start for us. Please don't make you feel that you don't need to invest. The more the merrier, but at least I think we've got a good deal of support, and that essentially the community is with us, and we'd like to continue that. So thank you all for your attendance today. You know where to contact us if you need anything, or have got any questions that you'd like to raise outside of the meeting. And I hope you all have the best day you can, bearing in mind the current restrictions and the weather. Probably best to stay inside and keep dry. Thank you all.